Agriculture is the backbone of human existence. For any civilization to prosper, the agriculture must be healthy and sustainable. My guest today on the show is someone who's on a mission to ensure that this is the case for generations to come. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Creators on Graphy. I'm your host, Rishabh. My guest today on the show can rightly be considered as one of the gurus of Indian agriculture. He is someone who has dedicated more than 25 years to this particular industry. He's been an architect of buildings, but is now an architect for a greener future in the country of India. He has also traveled all over the globe preaching the concepts of Vedic agriculture, natural farming, and other different farming techniques, and in the process has collected endangered indigenous vegetable seeds, brought them back to India, and cultivated them in his farm. Let's meet Dr. Prabhakar Rao, understand his journey, and see what his graphy is all about.
I am Prabhakar Rao and I am a seed keeper. My day usually starts with my visit to my farm, which is just about 15 minutes from where I stay. And invariably, I spend the first few hours of the day with my plants. I talk to them, I look after them, I water them, and I cherish them. And I am in the field of saving endangered species of plants and promoting a very ancient system of sustainable agriculture that is called Vedic agriculture. I hold talks, I create awareness on various platforms, I work with youngsters, I conduct workshops. My whole life is centered around this, reviving that ancient knowledge from the Vedic times about how we looked at plants and how we coexisted with plants. Plants were never apart from us. Plants were a part of us. As you can see, I have the most extraordinary range of vegetables, and many of them I have collected over 600 endangered vegetable species and have managed to stabilize and put online and share with people at least about 160 varieties of vegetables today. Join me in my journey to promote this ancient, wonderful, sustainable form of agriculture, which is called Vedic agriculture. And I'm sure Rishabh now would like to ask different questions, various questions on this beautiful ancient knowledge that we have and that needs to be revived.
Hello, sir. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Oh, so wonderful. Thank you very much.
It's great to have you, sir. It's absolute, indeed, privilege and an honor to have you on our show. Someone who's been a veteran in this particular profession, and you've dedicated 25 years of your life, to ensure that, planet Earth has a sustainable future, if I can put it that way. So my first question to you would be, how would you look back on this 25-year journey of yours in this particular field?
Rishabh, mine is a very checkered, life, because my original education was actually in the field of agriculture. I belonged to the scientists who brought in the green revolution into the country. My mentors were people like Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, Dr. M.V. Rao. I did my doctorate in plant breeding and genetics. And I was the one who belonged to that generation which brought in, industrial chemical agriculture into the country. But somewhere inside me, it did not ring a bell, in the sense that I used to always wonder, 40, 50, 60 years from now, will this be a sustainable technology? And one fine day I said, listen, I don't want to pursue this as my career. And then when I went to the US, I changed my line of study to architecture. So my professional career has been that of an architect. And it's only in 2011 that I came back to India and went headlong into agriculture, but in a completely diametrically opposite way. It was a 360-degree, different outlook, because now I promote non-chemical, sustainable agriculture practices based on our Vedic traditions, and that is called Vedic agriculture. So it's been a full circle, so to speak.
Right. So I actually, that was my next question actually, that you were someone who was actually pursuing agriculture initially, but then moved into architecture. So I wanted to know what exactly prompted this change. And then you said you returned in 2011. Was that because you were really passionate that you wanted to really do something for this industry?
No, agriculture has been at the core of my passion. I mean, always I have been agriculture, nature, ecology, ecosystems. Even my architecture has been largely landscape architecture. So I don't do so much of building architecture, but I was the lead architect for the Sardar Patel. That's the world's tallest statue project. I've done several waterfronts all over the world, but more on, something connected with nature, plants, ecology, ecosystems, sustainability, those kind of things. So, what really prompted me to change my line of study was somewhere in me, I didn't resonate with chemical agriculture. To me, I didn't know then why it was so, but even then, I don't know, my conscience kept saying that, are you doing the right thing? Are you doing the right thing? Till that voice became so loud that I just had to drop the field of study itself and do something else, which was not, which was at least more in harmony with my own passion.
Right, right, absolutely. So I wanted to ask you this, now that like we mentioned at the beginning of the show that you're someone who's completed 20 more than 25 years in this particular profession, but to reach where you are, one has to really get started, right? So I want to know where did that stem from in your case? Where was that in your head that this is what I want to pursue? Did you like since your childhood or any instance that you remember that really got you interested in this field?
Even as a little child, I grew up in a house. I mean, I belong to old Bangalore. We are a very old family from Bangalore. And my grandfather's house was called Totadamane. Totadamane means the house with the garden. So we had the biggest garden. And I remember growing up as a child, fully surrounded by Haryali. The greenery was always a part of who I was. And then during my graduate studies, I came across this incredible taxonomist, Father Cecil Saldana, who is one of the eminent taxonomists of India. And he used to take me with him into the deep jungles in the Western Ghats and the field trips. And he used to tell me about how we need to preserve what little biodiversity was left. And, all those I think were what actually prompted me to pursue this line. Even though I went into architecture, I come back here because that is probably who I am.
Okay. So I wanted to ask you this that now that you're doing a course on Graphy, which is all about Vedic agriculture, right? So Vedic agriculture is basically all about man's relationship with plant and soil. So where do you think it stands today compared to what it was many civilizations ago?
The Vedic civilization, I'm talking about the civilization 10,000 years ago in the valley of this river Saraswati, the Saraswat civilization, Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, Haryana, and all those areas. Now, they were extremely evolved. That civilization was so evolved and so in harmony with nature, with the universe. So they practiced a system of not just agriculture, whether it was agriculture, it was medicine, it was astronomy, it was architecture, it was mathematics, it was, homas and the pursuit of spiritual pursuits. They were very, very involved and they did it in harmony. They never did it competing or destroying something. So
Right.
their system of agriculture was a very evolved system. It works on a feedback loop where every season their learnings would refine the system to become more sustainable, more in harmony with nature. And that is why they say for them, they were never apart from plants. They were always a part of plants. So that was the understanding, that harmony. Today, more than any other time in our planet, where we have things like climate change, loss of biodiversity, etc., it is very, very important that we go and revive these ancient traditions. It's a very deep science, so scientific, so scientific. And today, if we can just start to bring this back into the mainstream, and that's what I do with about 22 lakh farmers across the country, we can have a system of agriculture that will not just feed us, but several generations down the line without destroying the planet.
Right, absolutely. So, like you mentioned, systems of agriculture, right? One is about industrial agriculture, whereas the other is natural. So, do you think natural, of course, it has its advantages, but do you think industrial is harmful in any way, or has it helped the agriculture industry in some way?
So I go back to the mandate that was given to us at the time when I had finished my doctoral studies. The government told us we need food security. And as scientists, your job is to produce yield, lots of yield, so that the nation will become self sufficient. So that was the goal. And I think as scientists, we did deliver that. I mean, from a nation which used to beg for food, it became a nation which could export food. There is no doubt about that part. But do we produce food security, or have we produced nutritional security? That is the question. Because today
Right.
our food is so laden with toxic residues, heavy metals. So many of our modern day illnesses are related to the heavy metals and the toxins that are there in the food, which come from the agrochemical usage. So even though we are producing massive quantities of food, are we producing healthy food? Are we producing a healthy nation? So when you look at it from that point of view, it is a big question mark. It's a big question mark, and it requires the younger generation to really ask these tough questions and take a call. Are you just going to keep producing rice and wheat, using all the chemicals, eat it, fall sick, and destroy the planet? Or are you going to look at it in a completely different way, where you produce food that may be many times more nutritious, although the quantum of yield may be less? I mean, that's the choice, and I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, that it is, it is. So you just mentioned about prioritizing health, right, for a nation, and especially considering a country like India, where the pandemic currently is raging and it's in really bad shape. So do you think that natural farming could really be the savior in this case, with considering the fact that all the food that we consume, be it the junk, and due to this industrial agriculture and the usage of pesticides and fertilizers, the food that we're consuming is really bad, and that has kind of reduced our immunity, which makes us more vulnerable to COVID, in fact. So do you think natural farming today becomes all the more important?
Absolutely. Because natural farming is not just growing vegetables or food crops without chemicals. That's one part of it. But so is organic farming. Organic farming also does the same thing. But what sets aside Vedic agriculture? Vedic agriculture not only looks at that, it looks at the health of the plants in a completely different way. Like Ayurveda looks at a human body as three doshas, and the three dosha, the vata, pitta, and the kapha. And the balance of these three gunas will produce a healthy human being. Now, in our understanding of Vedic agriculture, plants also have these three doshas, vata, pitta, and kapha, and how to keep that in equilibrium for a plant. It's a beautiful science. And then the biodiversity. When you are eating just rice and wheat, it is completely different from eating millets and pulses and the lesser crops, vegetables, whole variety of native indigenous vegetables. All that put together is a part of Vedic agriculture. Also, there are traditions like Agnihotra. Agnihotra is a very powerful tradition. The West today is using Agnihotra even to combat COVID. It is a system of purifying the ions in the air so that it improves our immunity. So there are various aspects of Vedic agriculture. Vedic agriculture doesn't just mean growing without chemicals. There are various facets of Vedic agriculture, and that's why they looked at plants and animals and human beings and Mother Earth as one entity. They didn't do piecemeal, and that is what I think is lacking today in our industrial agriculture. And I think there is a clarion call that we need to explore this, if not at least raise awareness that there is such a technology, and let people have the choice of adopting what they think is best for them.
Right, absolutely. So, Dr. Prabhakar, coming to your career, it has taken you places, right? You have traveled all over the globe thanks to this. You've visited farmers from all across the globe. You have gone to the deepest roots of particular countries and figured out problems there. You've preached about agriculture. So, what has your experience been across, all these countries that you visited, and any memorable encounter that you've had in any of these countries?
The my as an architect, I used to be the personal landscape designer for His Highness the Aga Khan of the Ismaili Foundation. And Aga Khans have their sort of projects all across the world. They don't have one country, but they are spread all across the world. So remote areas, Mongolia, Kazakhstan, Tatarstan, the South, the Far East, Africa, anywhere, you name it, they have a project going. So I used to have the opportunity to go to remote areas of the globe where chemical agriculture had still not made its inroads. And I could see the angst in the farmers there, at least the older generation of farmers. They understood the perils of the new technology. And they were very worried about losing biodiversity. So by nature, they were seed keepers. They used to make seed every season and share it with other farmers. So one of my memorable, seed collection trips, it happened by accident. I had been to Purulia district in West Bengal, which borders Bangladesh. And I was talking to one of the very old farmers there that about a particular variety of brinjal that used to exist in Bangladesh, that time East Pakistan. And it used to be called the long green brinjal, a very peculiar looking brinjal. But the greatness was its texture and flavor was exactly like mutton. So in the poorer families, when they made biryani, if they didn't have enough mutton, they'd put a lot of chunks of this brinjal to make that bulk look a little more muttony. So, but for over 20, 25 years, this variety is completely gone from the planet. So I was talking to him about this variety and I was explaining to him through a translator, that I was looking for at least maybe one seed. And I didn't know whether he understood anything because his face was quite blank. And then suddenly he got up, rushed and went inside and then came back with a small piece of half a brinjal, dried up brinjal with seeds in it. And it was this Bangladeshi long brinjal. And I'm so humbled that he chose me to give it to, having the trust that I would be able to revive it. So today at Haryali Seeds, which is my seed keeping farm, I have this online for anybody who wants to grow this beautiful variety of brinjal. Like this, there are many, many experiences around the world, but you get the drift of what I am trying to say.
Yeah. Right. So you just mentioned about Haryali seeds. In fact, that was going to be my next question to you. You've been, known as a seed keeper for the last 25 years. You've been getting all these vegetable seeds back home to India and cultivating them in your particular farm. So tell me a little bit about this venture and where did you get this idea and how is it doing today?
Yeah, so it was never meant to be a commercial venture. It was something I was doing it out of passion. I'm blessed to be in a stage in my life where I don't have to do something for a business. So I give the place for my passion, which was anyway to save biodiversity, and I focused on vegetables because that's where the biggest loss of biodiversity is happening. So I have this farmland, which is just 15 minutes from where I stay, and here I started to test these vegetable varieties. I got them from all over, lots from India, from remote corners of India, because when I propagate Vedic farming, I go to very remote Adivasi tribal areas. I get those seeds, few seeds, and over 600 varieties of vegetables I have tested. But being a plant breeder and geneticist, I know how to stabilize these. You have to stabilize them genetically, you have to stabilize them environmentally. You should make sure seed can be made from seed so that when I give 10 seeds to a farmer, he can make 10,000 seeds from it. So the whole idea is, to give seeds to farmer so that they become seed keepers. They will multiply, they will share it they don't have to come back and buy it from me every time, like hybrid or GMO seeds. Every season you have to buy it from the company. So Hariyali Seeds is basically a venture where I am just trying to save as much as possible. Whatever is there, I'm trying to save and, bring it into mainstream. So my hit rate is about 1 in 5. So if I get about 5 or 6 seeds, I save about one or two varieties. So out of 600, I've done about 160, 170 varieties. But I still think that's a huge, contribution to the biodiversity of the planet.
Absolutely. And I believe that it's a fantastic initiative that you've taken up, and it will ensure that there are exotic plants left for future generations to come. So, you've been around so many plants, through the course of your career since you are in this profession. So, I know that your course has one section that will talk about, hacks about, people who are at home and if they need any gardening tips. So, for now, could you just give us a preview, of what can they expect, in these particular hacks? What are some quick hacks that they can use in terms of, setting up their home garden?
Yeah, so actually, I started these home gardening hacks last April when the corona happened, and I wanted people to grow something at home, grow it without any chemicals, grow it with all the resources that they had at home, not going and buying something from the shop because everything was shut. Yeah. So I started doing a series of hacks. So I did about, I think, around 10 episodes, which I put up on YouTube on open platform for people to, refer to. So one of the hacks which I find very interesting for people is that there are about, generally, if you take all the pests, all the insects that attack that attack your plant, there are just about 6 of them. And I have this one hack, which is just using boric acid. Boric acid is something you'll get in the pharmacy. It's called borax. It's a packet of borax is hardly around 20 rupees or something like that. You just have that boric powder, and you make a small solution of that. And I, in my episode 6, if you go to Prabhakar Rao YouTube, you will get that. So it's such a simple thing, and the amount of people who have responded saying that they had very, very good results. They could control almost all the insects that attack their plants just using one hack. So it's not like you had to have 6 different solutions for 6 different pests. You just had one hack, and that took care of everything. So, I mean, these are the kind of things which home gardeners really cherish, And again, the entire thing of doing Agnihotra, it's a small homa that you do, and that Agnihotra itself, people are fascinated because, especially today in COVID times, these are the kind of things that we really need to explore. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Completely agree. And coming to a subject which is about inspiration, right? Everybody has some kind of an inspiration in their life. And based on what I've read about you, I believe that your inspiration is Mr. Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. And I believe that you are on the trust of the Agricultural Board of the Art of Living. So tell me about your association with this.
Well, it's about 25 years I have been with Gurudev Sri Sri. And, it is a journey. I mean, he is a big part of both me and my wife's lives. Both of us do voluntary work at the Art of Living. We've been doing it for about 25 years. And to me, his inspiration is basically that I need to answer my call of the universe. It's my career as an architect was a very flourishing career. I'm based in Dubai and I did work all over the world, and I could have continued doing, the work there. But what drove me to pursue my passion? I feel for that you need the grace of a master, who allows you that discrimination of knowing when enough is enough. When you have everything for your need, but you don't have to succumb to your greed. Yeah. So today, if I'm doing something that fills my heart, drives
Right.
me passion, I get up in the morning feeling so good about, being alive because I can do something. That I feel is something that can come only through the grace of a spiritual master. And me and my wife, I mean, we are very grateful that, we have his guidance in our lives. So his inspiration is not that I consider him as some superhuman or some god or anything like that, but he's just a very wise man who knows how to guide people.
Absolutely. And like we've mentioned before, that it's been an incredible journey for you. It's been truly rewarding. You've done something that you're passionate about. So I want to ask you this: what do the next 5 years have in store for you? If I were to ask you that, although it's been 25 years now, what do you see yourself doing in the next 5 years?
So, my main thing is to inspire the younger generation. I mean, my generation, I think we've done enough to butcher this planet. And if there's any hope, it's your generation that needs to take on the mantle of saving this planet. It's a tragic situation, but that's the truth. So, I am very focused on reviving gems and technologies from our own tradition. Because I have no doubt in my mind today that we had probably the best technology to live life in harmony with the planet at one point of time, 5,000 years, whatever it may be. Now, I'm Vedic agriculture is definitely one of them, and I promote this in a big way with youngsters by giving them a completely scientific approach. So even when I talk about Agnihotra, I talk about the science of Agnihotra. I talk about the physics of Agnihotra. When I talk about Mandala Vatika, which is the use of sacred geometry in the ancient Vedic gardens, I talk to them about quantum physics. I talk to them about cognitive neurosciences. I talk to them about the science of cymatics. I talk to them about the latest trends that are there in astronomy, in mathematics, in the study of particles. So giving that scientific basis through the ancient knowledge, I feel is the key to really getting acceptability to what is so beautiful that's always been with us. Yeah. So in the next 5 years, I would say that I would like to see half the country practicing Vedic agriculture. I know it's a tall claim, but that's what I would like to see. Yeah, I would like to see people, exploring the science of Mandala Vatika. I would like to see people becoming seed keepers, even urban gardeners with 2 pots on their balcony becoming seed keepers. Those are the kind of things that I hope to look for in the next 5 years. Rishabh.
Great. And I'm sure with someone like you around, I'm sure that could definitely be a possibility. Like you mentioned, the mantle now rests with the young generation. So, what is that one piece of advice you would like to give to, someone who's, just entering this industry, and someone, who wants to start up something in this industry? Because I have also read that you mentor such people. So, what is that one piece of advice that you'd like to share with this young generation?
Yeah, my advice would be follow your heart. We are all so socially conditioned that our success means all these boxes have to be ticked. You know, whether it's your own home or your car, your wife and 2 children, and bank balance with so many zeros or whatever. It's a conditioning. Many of the younger generation today, I am so happy to see, are actually defying this. They are deciding to do things which we as a generation would never have dreamt. They are deciding to downshift. They're just deciding to walk away from what the society has beaten the path for them to walk to their own beat, to their own drumbeat. I would say to every youngster, follow your heart, because ultimately that is what will give you happiness. True happiness in life will never be measured by the number of zeros in your bank balance. I'm not saying money is not important. Money is very important. But I'm saying that cannot be the pursuit. The pursuit has to be happiness. And for that to happen, your heart has to be. So follow your heart would be my mantra for the youngsters.
Okay, that's certainly some fantastic advice for the youth, sir, and I'm sure that they're going to pay heed to it and take it very seriously. Coming to my last question for you, sir, on the show, we almost come to the end of it. I wanted to know from you, you're launching your course on Graphy. So it's on Vedic agriculture, obviously. So could you tell us a little bit, give us a sneak peek probably of what people can expect out of it?
Absolutely. I mean, it's my first classroom on Graphy, and I'm very excited of this platform. And it is on Vedic agriculture. I mean, that is my passion. So, what are we going to discuss here? Here, we are going to go to the roots of the Vedic civilization 5,000, 10,000, 25,000 years ago. What made this civilization so brilliant? Who are these people? How did they live? So we are going to explore that, and we are going to look at an ancient text called Vriksha Ayurveda, and it's one of the definitive scripts or the books that we have, literature that we have, that talks about not just agriculture but man's relationship with plants. How all those principles of Vriksha Ayurveda can be incorporated into our modern agriculture. That's one part of it. Then we look at things like pest control, weed control. What is the latest in today's chemical world as against how did the ancients look at it? What are the principles they looked at it? They never killed a pest. A pesticide or a pest repellent that was effective 5,000 years ago is effective today. It will be effective 5,000 years from now. No chemical pesticide has a shelf life of more than 5 years. Even 5 years too much. 2 years it's redundant because the insect has mutated into a different strain which is resistant. How did the civilization do it? All that. Then we look at things like Agnihotra, how we work with vibrations, and how we work with the ions that are there in the air. How does the ash of Agnihotra work in agriculture? Not esoteric at all, based on pure science. And of course, for a home gardener, what are the hacks that you can use for growing plants at home? Indigenous varieties. How do you grow desi varieties, nati varieties? How do you grow them? Whether you have one pot in your balcony, or you have a terrace, or you have a garden, can you become a seed keeper? And how can you become a Vedic farmer? All these things are encapsulated into a 3-day, 2-hour per day capsule, and it's very flexi. You can watch it anywhere in the 24 hours. So depending on whichever time zone you are, you can watch it at a time convenient to you. And it's a 3-day session. And I believe that at the end of it, I would have at least triggered that desire in you that you should become a Vedic farmer.
Right, sir. That's some lovely piece of advice you've just shared with the younger generation. I really do hope that they're listening and they do follow this. With regards to Vedic agriculture, I really do hope that it is the way going forward, and the world is all about sustainability. And for you personally, sir, I wish you the very best with all your future endeavors. And I know that you're really going to continue to make a difference for the country, and make sure that it moves towards a greener future.
Thank you, Rishabh. And I'm really looking forward to working with Graphy. One of the things about Graphy that I really find exciting is it's full of young people. Every single one of you I've interacted so far are young, and that energy is something that's very infectious. So I'm really looking forward to creating several classes in agriculture on Graphy, and I'm really looking forward to a very fruitful relationship between us. So once again, thank you very much for this opportunity to be with you in this interview. Namaste.
So that was Dr. Prabhakar Rao, ladies and gentlemen. Please do sign up for his course on Graphy, as it promises to be a wonderful learning experience. Until then, if you are a creator who wants to grow your audience, monetize your skills, and conduct live cohort-based courses, then Graphy is the place to be. In short, be a creator on Graphy.